Shalom. Call I'm La Yahweh Bashem. Yahweh Shai Bashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles, a great millstone who rule and teach well. And a sincere shalom to the 144,000 to 1/3. Now I'm gonna do a full, thorough breakdown on Second Esdras 13th chapter, which goes into end time prophecy, the elect, Yahweh Shai's return. Okay, so let's start this off. Second Ezra 13 in verse 1 from the top. And it came to pass after 7 days, I dreamed a dream by night. So this is Esdras, falling asleep, receiving the dream from Yahweh. And lo, there arose a wind from the sea that it moved all the ways thereof. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. And when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him. This is Yahweh Shai. Okay, this Esdras is seeing Yahweh Shai and the angels, the Elohim, okay, coming from the second and third heaven to the earth to wage war against the heathen. All right, get rid of the 2/3 and the other non-elect Israelites, and to deliver the elect of the Israelites. And whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth falleth when it feeleth the fire. So Yahweh Shai has spiritual power. He's gonna zap. He's gonna zap people, individuals, with concentrated power. You know how Esau has his laser weapons. All right, that's just lesser power that Yahweh Shai has. Okay. And after this I beheld, and lo, he graved himself a great mountain and flew up upon it. But I would have seen the region or place where out the hill was graven, and I could not. So what Esdras is basically referring to is that he saw Yahweh Shai's chariot, and his chariot was so big he was likening it as if it was a mountain, but it's not. It was Yahweh Shai's chariot, and it was just so big that Esdras is describing it as if it's like a literal mountain. All right, so this is Psalm 68 and 17. The chariots of Yahweh are 20,000, even thousands of angels. Yahweh is among them, as in Sinai, in the holy place. So the angels, they're gonna have their chariots too, zipping around, doing his thing, delivering the elect. So let's continue. This is verse 8. And after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, and yet durst fight. I don't know if I read verse 5 or skipped over it, so I'm going to read verse 5. And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of the heaven to subdue the man that came out of the sea. Yeah, that's also going into Revelations. Let me see if I can get that. Revelations 19th chapter in verse 19. And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse and against his army. So John the Revelator is likening the chariots to a horse. And he describes it a little bit different in Esdras, but they're just describing the exact same, literally the exact same event, which is Yahweh Shai and the angels coming back to deliver the elect, and in the midst of that, to conquer, and Japan, Germany, Canada, Russia, China, Babylon the Great, so on and so forth. These countries are gonna fight Yahweh Shai, man. Okay, and the angels, they're gonna see so-called black men in the sky, and they're gonna fight them. All right, that's literally what this is describing. So let me jump to verse 9. And lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war. But only I saw that he sent out of his mouth as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempest. So he's shooting concentrated power, energy. Okay, he's sending this out to disintegrate and nag, right? In the anime community, right? The nerd comic community, they'll say words like, "Oh, he got nagged," right? So nagged means like the fight wasn't even close, right? It was a one-sided fight. That's how it's gonna be. Yahweh Shai is not gonna take any damage. His chariot is not gonna take any damage. He's not gonna get tired. He's not gonna run out of energy. All right. At the worst, maybe he gets bored. At the worst, right? The Elohim, they're not going to take damage. The chariots, none of that's going to happen, right? He's gonna put in work. All right. He's gonna get these heathen up out of here. All right. Verse 11, and they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and a great tempest, and fell with violence. All right, because this is not a friendly attack. This attack is meant to inflict pain and destruction, and fell with violence upon the multitude which were prepared to fight, and burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude nothing was yet to be perceived, but only dust and smell of smoke. And when I saw this, I was afraid. So Esdras, okay, he saw Yahweh Shai put in work, and it caught him off guard, because you see with us, with these movies like War of the Worlds, and we've been to a certain degree desensitized to this type of horror, you know. And Esdras, they didn't have no TV to see movies and stuff. Maybe they had plays and theater and things like that. But in terms of actual TV, where you see the CGI, the chariot, nah, man, he saw it in real time, real life, and it caught him off guard. Verse 12, afterward I saw the same man, come down from the mountain, and call unto him another peaceable multitude. So that goes into, that's the elect. So this is Mark the 13th chapter, in verse 27. And then shall he send his angels, and shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from the uttermost part of the earth to the uttermost part of heaven. Right? And that's Yahweh Shai right there. Let's keep going. Verse 13. And there came much people unto him, whereof some were glad, some were sorry, and some of them were bound, and other some brought of them that were offered. And then when I was sick through great fear, I awakened and said, Thou hast shewed thy servant these wonders from the beginning, and hast counted me worthy that thou shouldest receive my prayer. So the ones that are glad are the elect. All right, that's the 1/3, 144,000. The ones that are sorry are the 2/3. All right, the non-elect, if you will. Okay, let's get that into let's see. This is Daniel the 12th chapter and verse 2. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. Yeah, that's going to be the 2/3. That's going to be the ones that are sorry. Okay. Of course, the 2/3 is primarily, exclusively talking about the non-elect here in Babylon the Great. Now, the other Israelites around the earth aren't necessarily 2/3, but they're going to die. Okay, they're not a part. If they're not a part of the elect, they're going to get put to death, guaranteed. Okay. This is Luke 19 and 27. But those mine enemies, which would not that I should reign over them, bring hither and slay them before me. So yeah, you're gonna have a lot of Israelites. All right, they're gonna see Yahushua, they're gonna see the elect, they're gonna see that, and they're not gonna get with that. Especially, the northern kingdom, all right, that don't identify Jacob, the so-called Jews, right? Judah, Benjamin, Levi, the darker complected, woollier hair Israelites. They're not going to accept them, right? Especially, spiritual power. They may say some demon stuff going on, right? They may, I hear Elder Apostle Tahar say stuff like that, and that's how they're going to get down. A lot of them going to get down like that. All right, then you're gonna have Jakes that still live like primordial, right? They wearing grass skirts, using bow and arrows and animal muscle tissue for the string of the bow and arrow and stuff like that, right? They still living primitive. They gonna get put to death too. All right, they're not gonna want Yahweh Shah to rule over them. All right, and these other Jakes on what is it called, the Ivory Coast, the West Coast, and Nigeria and Ghana, they gonna get put to death too. They practice witchcraft, voodoo and all that comes from there, right? The west coast of Africa or Central Africa, one of those regions. They all these Jakes gonna get put to death. Okay, and that's the ones that are sad. Now the ones that are bound are going to the Jakes that are like amongst the heathen. All right, let's get that in what is that, Isaiah 24. Oh, okay. Salakia. That's not talking about Jacob amongst the heathen. That's talking about the heathen that that are being brought as slaves, all right, into captivity. This is Isaiah 24, 24 and 22. And they shall be gathered together as prisoners are gathered in the pit. All right, this is talking about actually, let's read further up, verse 21. And it shall come to pass that in that day that Yahweh shall punish the hosts of the high ones that are on high, and the kings of the earth upon the earth. Yeah. So in order for him to do that, he has to take out their military, which Yahweh is going to do, and then it's going to lead to the ones being bound. Let's get another, before I read Isaiah 24, let's get that right here. This is St. Matthew 12 and 29. Or else, how can one enter into a strong man's house and spoil his goods, except he first bind the strong man, then he will spoil his house? So yeah, so the kings of the earth, they're gonna have to be thrown down, demolished, beaten to submission. Then they're gonna go into captivity. Isaiah 24, and I'm gonna reread it again, verse 22. And they shall be gathered together as prisoners are gathered in the pit, and shall be shut up in the prison, and after many days shall they be visited. All right, that's the ones that are bound in 2nd Esdras 13 and verse 2nd Esdras 13 and 13. And then the ones that are offered are the heathen that are going to bring Israelites. All right, they're going to see, they're going to, the whole world is going to start, they're going to be forced to accept the gospel, because, how Shai just did what he did. And they're going to be like, all right, we got Israelites, they're going to, they're going to have Israelites in their countries, and then they're going to bring them, they're going to offer them up, all right, to Yahweh Shai and the elect. Let's get that in Isaiah 60. Salakia. Isaiah 60 and verse 9. Surely the isles shall wait for me, and the ships are Tarshish first to bring thy sons from far, their silver and their gold with them, unto the name of Yahweh thy power, and to the Holy One of Israel, because he hath glorified thee. Okay, let's get another one in Isaiah 66 and verse 20. And it reads, and they shall bring all your brethren for an offering unto Yahweh out of all nations, upon horses and in chariots and in litters and upon mules and upon swift beasts, to my holy mountain Jerusalem, saith Yahweh, as the children of Israel bring an offering to clear the vessel, to in a offering in a clean vessel until the house of Yahweh. All right. So that's further going into that point. No, this is 2 Esdras 13:14. Thou hast shewed thy servant these wonders from the beginning, and hast already read that. Verse 15. Shew me now yet the interpretation of this dream. For as I conceived in mine understanding, woe unto them that shall be left in those days, and much more woe unto them that are not left behind. So those that were left behind are the elect, and the ones that are not left behind are the 2/3, because they're going to suffer back then, and they're going to suffer now, uh, going into 70 A.D. All right, because you had the 2/3 in the non-elect were part of 70 A.D. They suffered then, and they're going to suffer now, and the elect are going to suffer, but they're the elect. They're going to make it through it, and they're going to get that crown from Yahweh Shai. Okay, verse 17. For they that were not left were in heaviness. Now understand I the things that are laid up in the latter days, which shall happen unto them. We're in the latter days now. And to those that are left behind. Therefore are they come into great perils and many necessities, like as these dreams declare. Yet is it easier for him that is in danger to come into these things than to pass away as a cloud out of the world and not see the things that happen in the last days? And he answered me and said, the interpretation of the vision shall I shew thee, and I will open unto thee that the thing that thou hast required. So it's better to be a part of the elect and go through Jacob's trouble than to be a part of the elect and not go through Jacob's trouble, right? Because you somehow are asleep, if you will. Verse 23. Verse 22. Whereas thou hast spoken to them that are left behind, this is the interpretation. He that shall endure the peril in that time hath kept himself. They that be fallen into danger are such as have works and faith towards the Almighty. Yeah, so if you have faith, Yahweh's going to bring it to you, all right, which is the second covenant. You're going to survive. And then you have works, right? You put in the work, which is the gospel, spreading the gospel and keeping the law, statutes, commandments in the best of your ability. Know this, therefore, that they which be left behind are more blessed than they that be dead. Yeah, so you are better off, all right, being alive in Jacob's trouble than being dead. Okay? This is the meaning of the vision, whereas thou sawest a man coming up from the midst of the sea. The same is he Salakia. Okay, verse 26. The same is he whom Yahweh the highest hath kept a great season, which by his own self shall deliver his creature, and he shall order them that are left behind. Yeah, the elect. Okay. Let's get this right here. Let's go to Matthew. All right, because it's better to be left behind. This is Saint Matthew, the 16th chapter, in verse 28, and it reads, verily I say unto you, there be some standing here which shall not taste of death. There you go. Till they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. Yeah, that's the ones that are left behind. The elect that didn't get put to death, and they make it through the entirety of Jacob's trouble. In verse 26, the same is he 2 Esdras 13:26 is going into the second covenant. All right, in spiritual power. Verse 27. And whereas thou sawest that out of his mouth there came as a blast of wind and fire and storm, and that he held neither sword nor an instrument of war, but that the rushing of in of him destroyed the whole multitude that came in to subdue him. This is the interpretation. Behold, the days come wherein the Most High will begin to deliver them that are upon the earth. Give me a moment real quick. Okay, verse 30. And he shall come to the astonishment of them that dwell on the earth. And one shall undertake to fight against another, one city against another, one place against another, one people against another, and one realm against another. So this is going to be all out war. The spirits are going to go get active. Okay. You're going to have these right hand, left hand spirits going against people. All right. Esau is going to tap in on a left hand side for spiritual power, go against the elect, go against Yahweh Shai. It's going to be all out war. Verse 32. In that time shall be when these things shall come to pass, and the signs shall happen which I shewed thee before, and then shall my son be declared, whom thou sawest as a man ascending. Who is this talking about? Yahweh Shai, Hamashiach. And when all the people hear his voice, every man shall in their own land leave the battle they have had one against another. All right. And a good verse, a good quote that goes into that is Richard Nixon with the alien threat. Go look that up. Richard Nixon, alien threat. That literally describes 2nd Esdras 13 and 33 to a T. Okay, the scriptures are very real. The Most High Yahweh made sure Richard Nixon said that, made sure it circulated online. So let's reread that again. 2nd Esdras 13:33. And when all the people hear his voice, every man shall in their own land leave the battle they have one against another. And an innumerable multitude shall be gathered together, as thou sawest them willing to come and to overcome him by fighting. But he shall stand upon the top of the mount of Zion, and Zion shall come and shall be shooting all men, being prepared and builded, like as thou sawest the hill graven without hands. Yeah, so the elect is going to get turned up, man. The elect is going to get turned up. And that's going into Zion is the spiritual power. We're going to get spirit. Ottawa and Rochester are part of the elect. We're going to get turned up like Yahweh Shai got turned up. And we're going to take the world, right? The elect is going to take the world. This is Zechariah 12 and 8. And that day shall Yahweh defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David. And the house of David shall be as the Most High. All right, as the angel of Yahweh before them. So it's not directly talking about Yahweh, but we are going to be like Yahweh, right? Because we are his people. So we're going to have power like Yahweh. We're going to be able to control the elements, right? Because it said like the angel as Yahweh before them. So we're going to be able to shape shift, right? Make ourselves smaller, make ourselves bigger, right? We're going to be able to phase through matter. Going to be able to read people's minds, to move so fast, right? You know, when material physical things move really fast, it causes sonic booms and all this other crazy stuff. We're gonna be able to move 100 times faster, 1,000 times faster, and no disruption to the air. We're gonna be able to teleport. We're gonna be able to do all those things. Even in a kingdom, when the 2/3 come back, they're gonna have power. All right. Now, where was I? Verse 37. And this my son shall rebuke the wicked inventions of these nations, which for their wicked life are fallen into the tempest, and shall lay before them their evil thoughts, and the torments wherewith they shall begin to be tormented, which are like unto a flame, and he shall destroy them without labor by the law which is like unto me. So he's going to make Yahweh Shai is going to make sure he burns up and annihilate these heathen, starting with the Edomites. This is Revelations 19, Revelations 19:11. And I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness do he do in and in righteousness he doeth judge and make war. There you go. Verse 39. And whereas thou sawest that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto him, the elect, these are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Solomonasser the king of Assyria led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. But they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. Yeah, they knew about the land because King Solomon, the gold of Ophir and all that, and the peafowl, right? And what was it? Apes, monkeys. That was here in America. King Solomon sent Hamite, a naval, all right, naval fleet here to the Americas to gather resources. That's how the Northern Kingdom knew about this place and knew that there wasn't anybody living over here in the Americas. All right. Verse 42, that they might there keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. And they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. For the Most High then shewed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, and the same region is called Azareth, which means another land, which is in the scriptures. Let me see if I can find it. Or I should say it's in Deuteronomy. Yeah, here it is. Deuteronomy 29 and 28. And Yahweh rooted them out of their land in anger and in wrath and in great indignation, and cast them into another land as it is this day. All right. So that's hey, there you go. Babylon the Great. And when you go into another land in the Assyrian script, Aramaic is either Syrian Aramaic, Aramaic, if I'm pronouncing that right, one or the other. So Salakia, if I got that wrong. But when you go into it, in the concordance on the blue letter is Azareth. All right, like you see here in 2 Esdras 13:45. Arsareth, which means another land. Verse 46, then dwelt they there until the latter time, and now when they shall begin to come, the highest shall stay the springs of the stream again, that they may go through. Therefore sawest thou the multitude with peace. But those that be left behind of thy people are they that are found within my borders. All right. Now when he destroyeth the multitude of the nations that are gathered together, he shall defend his people that remain, and then shall he shew them great wonders. So this is what Yahweh Shai has to come. And when it says when they shall begin to come in verse 46, that's talking about the southern kingdom when they started to come over here in Babylon the Great via the transatlantic slave trade. All right. Verse 49, now when he destroys the multitude of the nations that are gathered together, he shall defend his people that remain, and then shall he shew them great wonders. Then said I, O Yahweh that bearest rule, shew me this. Wherefore have I seen the man coming up from the midst of the sea? And he said unto him, like as thou canst neither seek out nor know the things that are in the deep of the sea, even so can no man upon earth see my son or those that be with him, but in the day time. So nobody knows when Yahweh Shai is going to return but Yahweh. Not even Yahweh Shai knows when he's the green light. All right. This is Matthew 24 and 36. But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. So Yahweh Shai doesn't even know when that green light is going to be lit, man. This is the interpretation of the dream which thou sawest, and whereby thou only art here lightened. For thou hast forsaken thine own way, and applied thy diligence unto my law, and sought it. Thy life hast thou ordered in wisdom, and hast called understanding thy mother. And therefore have I shewed thee the treasures of the highest. After other 3 days I will speak other things unto thee, and declare unto thee mighty and wondrous things. Then went I forth into the field, gave praise and thanks greatly unto the Most High, because of his wonders which he did in time, and because he governeth the same in such things as fall in their seasons. And there I sat 3 days. So Esdras, he saw Yahweh Shai come back, received the elect, received non-elect, received the captivity of the heathen. All right, we got a breakdown of the northern kingdom come over here in the Americas, then the southern kingdom. All right, we got what else? Yahweh Shai with the second covenant. Yahweh Shai conquering the world, the elect getting spiritual power. All right, that's pretty much going in Second Ezra 13 chapter. Right, broke it down as thorough as I could, straight to the point. All the one records I was edifying. Shalom.